There's something calming about waterfalls, something that makes visitors want to pull over and capture the moment. Then again, just about everything in these parts has that effect. Route 145 rolls over gently sloping hills, past farms and fields as it stretches from Colebrook to New Hampshire's northernmost town. Halfway, about 7 miles in, the old poor family homestead peeks out from trees, an historic farm museum that hints at a pace of life still savored up here. The road winds along till it meets Route 3, or what's known as Main Street, in the tiny village center of the sprawling town of Pittsburg.
You know, it's the largest township in the lower 48, 283 square miles of town. Population as of 2000 was 986 people.
Corey Schmidt owns the general store. It's also a deli and a trading post and an antique shop. There's even a trout pond where you can feed his fish.
I'll see if I can get them to come up.
Come on, guys.
There's Doobie's Pit Stop across the way where you can grab some gas, some grub, and chew the fat with locals. In the square is a sign bearing Pittsburgh's first identity as the independent Indian Stream Republic, in front of what may be the world's smallest information center.
Well, you know what? I think people want to get away. They want to get away from where they're at down below, the congestion, the hustle and bustle, and they want to get up to where it's almost like Mayberry.
Bob and Polly Hamill made the drive from Manchester for a picnic, a 6-hour round trip worth every minute.
Yes.
When you get to see the pine trees, see how pointy they are?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're
That's
more
when you're in
pointy.
North
Yeah,
Country.
you know.
Route 3 runs all the way to the Canadian border, along with a few side streets and lots of dirt roads. There are 3 covered bridges, Lake Francis and the Connecticut lakes, and trees as far as the eye can see.
Although much of it is in private hands, an awful lot of it is either part of the North Country logging, is owned by a logging company, or most recently has been turned over to the trust when the logging company and the state and the L-chip folks put together the tract of land that goes into trust now for the enjoyment of the citizens of New Hampshire. So as you view a lot of the land that's above the first Connecticut Dam, that is the people of New Hampshire's right now.
Not even Yellowstone can match its 450 miles of groomed snowmobile trails, adding to the allure of an area long admired by hunters and fishermen and families that stay in rustic cabins and lodges.
I think everybody romanticizes about the cabin in the woods, and that's what we offer. You know, you have your little cabin with your kitchen, and you can cook outside, and a beautiful view when you wake up in the morning. And the lake right there, and the mountains, and a lot of people enjoy that.
Lisa Savard is also an upland bird hunting guide, taking along one of her 5 Brittany Spaniels to help. On this day, she's guiding a grouse hunt with 2 clients from Detroit.
What you got, Jack? Up, up.
Yeah, the common experience, the common love of the outdoors and the wilderness and wild game and the dogs, everything that you find out your soulmates oftentimes, the people that hunt out together in the
Cell
woods.
phones don't work, so it doesn't make, you can't make any calls.
There's a lot of activity, but it's a very different kind of activity than you might find in the White Mountains, where there are a lot of different types of attractions. You know, you won't find any mini golf or arcades up here. You know, it's natural forms of recreation. It's kayaking, it's hiking, it's anything to do with nature, and far less to do with the electronic world.
Tim Savard is a fly fishing guide.
We're catching trout, and the real attraction up here for a lot of folks are the landlocked salmon. This river still contains the last naturally reproducing landlocked salmon in New Hampshire. You're looking at the upper Connecticut River. It starts as a little hole in the ground just north of 4th Connecticut Lake and flows down through the series of lakes, and then 307 miles south it dumps into Long Island Sound.
One of the biggest attractions up here is found along the last stretch of Route 3, between where power and telephone lines end and the Canadian border, more than a dozen miles beyond. Nothing but road and sky and woods and wildlife. It's known as Moose Alley.
My cousins drove up just for a day just to see it, from upstate New York, just to see the moose.
They drove all the way over here?
Yeah, it's like a 6.5-hour drive.
People come day after day, year after year, for the chance to see moose nosing at the side of the road at dusk and dawn.
Because I know some folks come up and then...
This is what we came for. If we weren't finding moose, we would be unhappy.
She's a little further up the road last night.
So you've been coming back a few days in a row?
Yeah, I think this is the 3rd or 4th night they've seen her here,
Oh, yeah.
along here.
So far, man and beast have found a way to share this vast, unspoiled chunk of granite state.
Moose, deer, maybe a bear, foxes, osprey, rough grouse, raccoons, skunks. We've got them all.
More animals than residents?
Absolutely, the moose definitely outnumber the residents.
Next week, a look at Pittsburgh through the eyes of those who call it home. If you dream of living in a place with crystal clear lakes and undeveloped shorelines, with thousands of acres of wilderness to explore, if you enjoy wild animals and just being outdoors, and don't mind a long, cold winter, then you might consider moving as far north as you can in New Hampshire to the vast, unspoiled, and fairly remote town of Pittsburgh.
Find him, Jack.
That's what Lisa Savard did. Even as she spent summers here with her grandparents, she knew she wanted to make it her home. Now, with her Brittany Spaniels leading the way, she's an upland bird hunting guide.
And when they smell a bird, they'll stop because they are pointing dogs, and then the collar will start to beep, 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 and that way we can find them in the thick cover if they're not within eyesight. And we all kind of converge in on the dog, and usually the bird flies, and sometimes we're successful,
my good boy.
and most times we're not.
Lisa and her husband also own and run Lopstick Lodge and Cabins. Whether it be their log cabins or those at Tall Timbers and others, the tourism business is growing in a region attractive to those who want to get away and enjoy the outdoors year-round.
Well, we were at 8 cabins in 1991. And we are 35 cabins in 2007 with 14 rental snow machines and a fleet of boat rentals, kayak rentals, canoe rentals.
And you're busy most of the year.
Yep. And the Orvis Fly Shop, and we rent fly rods and waders, and if you need it and don't have it, we try to rent it.
Her husband Tim is a former Associated Press photographer who helps at their cabins and guides fly fishermen. Like lots of transplants, he lives and works where he used to spend his free time.
Just the fact that I have to drive nearly 2 hours to get to the first traffic light is certainly less stressful than where I used to live down below. That's what we call it, down below.
nobody's yelling, cutting you off, screaming at you, and all the traffic and
putting on their makeup, going to work,
yes,
on the interstate,
reading the paper, driving down 93.
I don't miss that.
These women work at the general store. One also works at a hatchery and a rest home, another at the post office. It's how most folks get by.
And it's a very active community. It's a small community where you might meet someone at a church supper who's not only the fish and game officer, but is also on the school board, and maybe your road agent and your postmaster too.
The downtown is tiny, but it's a popular gathering spot. And there's one school spanning kindergarten to 12th grade. Class sizes are enviably small. It's a region where newcomers join families who have farmed and generally made use of the woods for generations, like Roy Amy's.
The youngest one that went here. They've moved up because it's the last frontier. I mean, they're seeing what the people in 1785 saw. They can buy a house lot and they can live on the top of the house, on the mountain, and have a dirt road. You know, that beats city life, I guess. I never lived in a city.
His company produces bark mulch and grades and sorts wood that comes from hundreds of thousands of acres of timber company land, and he trucks it several hours away. Meantime, he still runs his own family farm, alongside farms maintained by his brother and his brother-in-law.
Well, we have 32 head of cattle, and we have a team of horses just to play with and feed grain. But my granddaughter loves it, and I like it after working with people and trucking and on the phone for hours, 7 days a week in the spring. The cows don't complain, and it's very nice. It's relaxing. But not only that, it keeps the land. It keeps it from growing up to bushes, and you fertilize it organically, and you grow a crop on it, and it looks nice. People come from everywhere and take a picture of this valley and the farm.
People here tend to favor conservation over development. They can be wary of change, riding that fine line between embracing growth and maintaining a way of life.
A lack of some services can pose a problem for people living up here. Medical specialists, for instance. I talked to one man, he said it took him 5 months to get an appointment and then 2 hours to get there. There's no cell telephone service, no cable television, but those kinds of things are usually the reason most people enjoy living here.
Change is gradual. Cell service could help businesses and increase safety, and many would like some closer adult education opportunities. But the kind of hearty soul that chooses to live and work up here tends to be the kind that weathers trade-offs with a knowing smile.
But no, Colebrook is our lifeline, you know, the IGA, the banks.
How about, where do you buy clothes around here?
The internet.
The internet?
The internet, that's where I buy clothes. You know, Cabela's, LL Bean, or the Lopstick gift shop.
What is it? What's the draw? It gets really cold in the winter.
Very much so. Yeah. Snowmobiling. A lot of people like to be outdoors.
Do you guys like to be outdoors?
We don't have time because we work so much.
Yeah.
When we come back, Pittsburgh learns from its past as its original one-room schoolhouse hosts its first class since 1939. On a bright fall day, teacher Wanda Merrill rings the bell that marks the start of classes at Pittsburgh's Indian Stream Schoolhouse.
Buddy, touch the ground!
And exactly 100 years since his own father began attending, Roy Amy helps his granddaughter's first grade class hoist the flag, part of a ritual that hasn't happened at the one-room schoolhouse since it closed in 1939.
"Run, little rabbits," said Mrs. Bunny. "It is time to play, little rabbits."
Bernice Schaff was a student here, and at the age of 92, was happy to share her memories with the first group of children to experience school here in 68 years.
We brought our lunch in a pail, set it on the floor. When it came noontime, our sandwiches would be frozen. We would put our lunchbox cover on the stove and put our sandwich up there and thaw it out so we could chew it. And we all grew up to be real big, rugged people.
Good morning, everybody.
Can you say good morning?
Good morning.
Former student Robert Gray reminisced too.
No electricity. There isn't now. There wasn't there.
After having been neglected for years, the place has been painstakingly restored, mostly by Roy Amy.
There was no sheetrock, or it wasn't sheetrock, no plaster on the ceilings, none on the walls. Basically no shingles on the roof, no floor. The floor had fell in.
His granddaughter, Cassandra, was part of the inspiration to fix up a place so much a part of his family's history. His own grandfather roofed it and provided the wood for many years.
It was built in the fall of 1897. I believe it was around $200 that the town raised through tax dollars to build it. But a lot of the work was done with the local farmers and people that lived by, shaping the ground and building the steps and donating their time, you know, to help on the tax dollars because there wasn't much of any money then to go around anywhere.
So what did it take to make this happen?
A lot of money and a lot of hard work.
You know, when I first met Roy Amy, I was very impressed at his passion about the restoration of the schoolhouse. And I helped him do the research on it. And the more we researched, the more we found out. We identified that there were 13 students still alive, which was fantastic. We found one of them in Virginia, 2 of them in New York. And they were willing to give us their history and ideas about the schoolhouse. And that's when Roy basically was using his own personal funds to restore the schoolhouse. And we decided that it was time to, in a sense, make it a community project.
A lot of those items, or all those items, most all of them, was the generosity of the former students and friends. For instance, this bell was given to me the day before the rededication. Does work. By Joe and Jean Lord from Connecticut, and their grandmother, and Irma Clarkson too, a sister of Joe Lord. Their grandmother was a teacher here in 1904, and they had that bell, and they said the bell belongs here.
Roy's vision is unique in this community in the sense that a lot of folks are very busy just trying to make ends meet and keep things going that are here, the roads, the infrastructure. So preserving the history, preserving the historical significance doesn't always get the first priority up here, not when you need a road built or a bridge repaired. So it's important for people like Roy who have the vision and who are able to move the project forward, get people excited about it enough so that we not only get the grant, but we get the contributions from individuals and the participation from the community.
And so the doors of the newly restored Indian Stream Schoolhouse are once again open, a lesson in history and perseverance.
So hopefully we can get all of our elementary grades, K through 6, at least get down here once or twice a year, so they can experience these things and have a day's worth of classes in actual one-room schoolhouse.
That's my goal. And I want it to go, I want to have money set aside and a trust to keep this building up forever.